What's up, everybody? This is Illiterate. This week we are covering Avatar: Way of Water. Yes, that's right. We're going back to Pandora. I just went to Pandora. I'm back. Oh my god, I'm hanging out with Taylor.
Heyo, I looked into everything you didn't think you wanted to know about Avatar.
It's been 12 years. I'm baffled that I saw the original in theaters in its original form, 3D, mind blowing. And to think about the journey that this has gone through, we've been hearing about the sequel forever. It's finally here, and what an interesting time for it to pop up. What an interesting reaction it's having, and I'm excited to walk down the trail here. Um, Generally, I was pretty taken with it. Like, it was amazing. It was beautiful. It was what I was promised. It
Right.
was emotional. It was so interesting. I mean, absolutely textured, not just in the visuals, but in the storytelling. It was a masterclass top to bottom. You just don't get a film like this very often. And it really put in the last 12 years to perspective for me, because the perception that the original has had has ebbed and flowed and waxed and waned in the public eye. So it's so interesting now to finally have the sequel, to finally get the reactions for it.
Yeah.
I'm stoked to pick it apart.
Yeah, the first one is still the highest grossing film of all time because it had a re-release recently. Because Avengers Endgame was the planet killing movie of the universe. But then Avatar's back
So it
on
had
top
it up until Endgame, and then Avatar re-released and took it back.
for this one. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah.
It's crazy that James Cameron has the first and third highest grossing films.
Yeah, well, let's put that into perspective. You know, that Endgame, that's the penultimate film in a series built on massive IP with tons of people, that are
Yeah.
making that happen. That's not an original idea. That those things have existed. Those characters have existed. That audience has existed. So all the more magnanimous it is to go like, yeah, Avatar's completely original, a wholly original idea from
Exactly.
Jim Cameron.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, is it? We're gonna figure it out. This,
Ooh.
you know. Yeah. What's crazy about it? Like you said, it's beautiful. It's all together. There was just as an oddity from when the first one came out. We'll see if I don't know if this will happen with the second one, but there was a thing that people were saying that they had post Avatar depression,
I heard about this.
which
I
was not a
read
recognized medical condition, but noticeable enough for those fans and forums and people being interviewed about it that it was like, look at this amazing thing, which I guess was the point of the whole series and James Cameron's life and everything is, hey, appreciate nature. And people were so depressed by how lovely this place looked and that it was being destroyed. It's like, well, that's the very oblique message of the whole thing. So good job. Not that you'd want to
cool.
be depressed, but yeah, it was a thing.
Having
Uh,
withdrawals from I mean, God, we talk about creating, a place and time, going to another
yeah,
world, man. He made people have like actual withdrawals
yeah,
when the credits roll. Gosh,
yeah.
I hate to take that as like a compliment, but it might be to a storyteller. I don't know. You made it
Yeah.
real, Jim.
When you had set off Mike, we won't get into him really much at all, but just that this is a synthesis, especially this new one,
Oh,
of
yes.
everything he loves because he is the he disappeared to do a bunch of documentaries. He kind of waits for the technology of filmmaking to catch up to what he wants, which is what happened with this one. But he dove into the Mariana Trench in his own sub, was the first solo manned exploration of this,
Oh my
and
gosh.
was the first manned one in 52 years. There had only
Wow.
been one before him that as a not a robot but a person, and he did it by
Yeah.
himself in 2012. So yeah, he loves water and
Yeah.
aquatic life.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
apparent to me watching this one. I'm a big James Cameron fan, but never have I seen a film of his where I felt like all of his interests were like firing on nine. Uh,
Mhm.
every like Terminator's in the movie, Aliens is in the movie. It's that all of his Titanic is in the
Yeah, yeah.
movie. Pieces and parts of all of his movies. And I'm not saying he's ripping himself off, but I'm saying that I see the way he's framing shots. I see the action that he's interested in. I see the colors, the
Mhm.
template, the composition. I can see what the man is interested in. Oh, look, a mech suit with a man in it. Oh, that looks exactly like Rip. Like
Yeah, yeah.
the colors that it's you really for the first time ever. I walked away from this film going like, man, he just threw everything he really likes into one movie. For finally, this has Abyss in it. This has all of it. If you've not
Yeah.
seen all of his movies, most of them are absolutely incredible. I mean, only Piranha 2 is regarded as like not good, and that was his first movie, and he was hired as a secondary director on that. So,
Yeah.
all of his movies are fantastic. So why not use those parts and pieces of them? And not ever before have we gotten all of his interests really firing on nine, all
Yeah.
comported together to tell a full story.
Yeah. Well, let's that's a perfect segue to jump into what is he pulling from, if he is pulling from anything that is the synthesis of all of his ideas, the origin story of Avatar, the whole
Please.
property. There is, which I couldn't find the picture of, but I think it's out there. He had drawn this alien jungle landscape in 11th grade, he had said,
Oh, oh,
called Spring
really?
on Planet Flora. And there was, when the first film came out, a ton of lawsuits right after, which is how things go in Hollywood when something
Right.
is successful. Well, I told him that on set when we
Yeah.
were at
Yeah.
getting cheeseburgers, and I'm some random person, and now he owes me $2 billion.
Yeah.
Sure.
You get that with
Yeah.
like almost every best picture, it feels like.
Yeah. So I was lucky because this, you have to do the research for this sort of thing. But with him in 2012, he wrote a 45-page thing saying, "Hey, this is all of the stuff that I pulled from that is not that is not these people suing me. So here you go.
Oh my
Here's
gosh, really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is some of the interesting stuff that's like, hey, yeah, like the drawing I did in 11th grade. You didn't come up with that, did you? Because people made the allusions to Ferngully and Pocahontas, but it's like we say in the show all the time,
Sure.
everything
Right.
is.
Right.
Yeah,
And that would be the foremost one. Yeah, the first one is very, very much like Pocahontas, but
yeah. But he literally said in an interview, he was like, Avatar is a science fiction retelling of the history of North and South America in the colonial period.
there we go.
Europe,
There you
Europe is Earth, the Native Americans are the Na'vi. It's not meant to be subtle. He said all of that. So,
go. He's like, no, you're getting it.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so,
He's
but
like a plot. When you
yeah.
say that as like some sort of like a critique, and he's like he starts to applaud. Like, no, no, you're finally understanding it.
Yeah, I wanna it's so
No,
yeah,
you got
exactly.
it.
You did it. Yeah. Um, in this 45-page document, the stuff that he had done before that I didn't know about that he's pulling from is it's interesting to read these other concepts that merged. The biggest one was a short film, I think maybe his first real thing that he made called
Really?
Xenogenesis. Do you know about this at all?
No,
Maybe you do.
no.
So this is from the 70s. This is I think even before he was a truck driver and then decided to go into film. Maybe it was
Right,
after.
that's where my knowledge of him really
Yeah.
starts. He's an early 20s truck driver, and he's driving from Orange County to USC, and he's photocopying basically materials in the library at USC, and he's kind of putting
He
himself through his own education. But that's beyond that, I didn't even know he made short films before he was a truck driver. This is new
y
information to me.
yeah, so maybe this is it's in that wheelhouse. I'm not sure exactly
Mhm, mhm.
when it fits, but it's in the 70s, and the premise is it's this mile-long spaceship fleeing Earth's destruction. They're seeking a planet to live on, and concepts of merging man with machine, not really the Avatar thing of an alien species that you're embodying, but it's got a lot of his stuff
But,
and a
like,
lot of
the
yeah.
Terminator is a man on the outside, a machine on the inside.
Right, and the mech suits and aliens, and it's all,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, the
yeah.
power loader and, all of the Avatar climax is all people in big big
Right.
power loaders. That's what they
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on, let's come on.
Yeah, so the sci-fi stuff that he likes, is all there.
With the
What
with
he's
the
yeah.
yellow and black
Mhm.
slash caution lines.
Yeah, yeah. So this thing, the Xenogenesis, his education by himself was funded by a local dentist who then was not involved, bowed out because he
Hmm.
didn't think it was going to do anything. But
Oh
this is how he
gosh.
ends up. Roger Corman saw it, and then whatever film he did, I don't remember the title,
Oh
but
wow.
he was on that. This thing I did find, it's available on YouTube.
Really?
Very poor quality, can't really watch it, but you get a
Sure.
flavor of, oh yeah, he was goofing around with this
Cool.
stuff. However, you can express those concepts
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
70s, being
Yeah, it's not so
inspired by Star
easy.
Wars, all that
We
stuff.
it's
Yeah.
like we grew up in a particular age, the onset of, camera phones and things like that, so it's
Right.
hard to, like, remember just 25 years ago. It's not just so ubiquitous that you reach into your pocket and be able to just, like, beautifully capture a moment forever, or, like, then
Yeah.
take it and mosaic it into a story.
And especially if your ideas are high concept psychedelic science fiction, you
Right,
gotta find a rich dentist in your town who's
right.
gullible and willing to give you money to make it happen. So,
It's just
yeah.
amazing how fast all that has changed because it felt like it was like that through the '90s, basically. Like, if you
Mhm.
could get a DV tape, a camera, like, that was wow.
And you had weird friends. You
Right,
could
right.
paint them blue and pretend to be aliens if you wanted. Exactly.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
check this out, though.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
I'll put
not
it in the
aware
show
of
notes.
it at all. This is amazing.
Um, there was other stuff too that didn't get made, which he references, that have, blue-skinned characters or a luminous planet, the willow tree that is the
Mm,
mother tree, and
mhm.
it's all bioluminescent. But one of the ones that he was working on, which he called Mother, didn't get made, but was about this mining company setting up, and the atmosphere is toxic, and they do create an alien creature
Mm.
to fit psychically control to work on the planet in the mine. So that's
Oh,
another
wow, yeah,
synthesis
yeah,
connected to it. It's getting closer and closer.
yeah.
This actually developing, though, begins in 94 and
Mhm.
said, hey, this would come after Titanic, but the advances in the motion capture stuff don't happen in that time frame. So he needs to wait until the mid 2000s. This is for the first one.
I just can't believe he waited. I can't
Yeah.
believe he waited, and he just made some docs, and he did those explorations, and he just waited,
Yeah.
and then he did it again. Like, I can't believe I've gone through 2 major Cameron droughts in my life.
Yeah.
It's been over a decade since he made a movie, and I just witnessed that again.
Mhm.
I love his movies too much for him to keep doing this to me.
Well, you'll be happy to know that all of Avatar 3 is filmed.
Thank
He
God.
filmed it at the same time because he's using kids, and he said he didn't want it to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
like
yeah,
Stranger
yeah.
Things where suddenly they look 45 because kids grow up really fast. So the next one, it's not like he's waiting for any sort of technology.
Right, right. It's
Maybe he
time,
is, and
finally.
yeah, yeah.
It's time.
Um,
And I left the theater going like, "Yeah, I would rather go and see the sequel to this in a year or 2 than wait another
wait for
5 or
another.
10 years to like, I would much rather." I even read, I read where he was, maybe I'm skipping ahead a bit, but
Oh, that's fine.
I got a little bit excited for where the series could go, past this one, because he was saying that as he was turning in drafts of the script, which that they've been drafting this the entire time, they put together an entire writers' room of people
Yeah.
to work on the original sequel that then they completely scrapped, sent everybody home. It ended up being like the
Mhm.
first 30 minutes of this one, but like they worked for years. Then that yielded almost nothing. Um,
Yeah.
so I got excited because after they threw all that stuff away and he kept working and eventually got through drafts of the other sequels. And he says that every time he sent in a draft of a movie, he sent in the draft for the one that just came out and he got like 3 pages of notes. And then he sent in the next one and he got like 2 pages of notes. And he says, okay, getting better. And then he sends in the last one and it's one sentence of notes. It just goes, holy from the studio head. And Jim writes back. He says, "I'm sorry, I didn't see the notes attached here." And the studio
Mhm.
head says, "No, those are the notes." So I think that was what he was talking about. What the fifth one would be. So
Right.
I'm kind of astounded to see if he has this much of it planned out. Third one's already filmed. Most of the fourth one's in the bag. I really, really, really hope that we get to that crazy fifth one because it sounds absolutely insane. I heard that little nuggets, in one of the Variety articles last week before it came out.
Yeah.
So that gives me some sort of a lot of excitement for what he has planned, but it gives me some hope that, there might be more appetite to follow the story in an even more different direction.
Yeah, because this is, as we said at the top, the original content. Even Titanic is a historical based thing. The sequel stuff that he's done. So to come up
He's king of
with,
sequels, so
yeah,
he does
yeah,
Terminator and gets hired to do Aliens, and then eventually circles back and does Terminator 2. The
uh-huh.
man has, like, written the book on how to do a follow-up, and I think he's really cemented that with this one.
Well, that's what was hard, what he was saying with the sequel to this one, because he's coming up with everything for the first one and the second one and onward. So it was kind of, as you said, a bunch of writers. I saw he went to Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver, who did Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Jurassic
Mhm, mhm.
World. So they also know adding two properties. It's funny that you say, "Oh, he's good at this," but he also is interested in getting more people on board because it's
He's
just him.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like and that's interesting to say too, because yeah, he's good at this, but it took a lot of trial and error. It's not like it was just one and done. Yeah, it's amazing when it falls out of my thoughts.
Right.
It was no, we're gonna assemble a team. We're gonna really take some shots at it. What we come back with and what actually makes it the distance might be minuscule. Again, and all of the technical stuff. That's another one of the leaps and bounds. I thought the original looked beautiful, but this one is even better. Watching Avatar 2, not sure how they pulled it off. I really am not. I see a 15-year-old pubescent boy walking next to a 10-foot tall blue alien. The lighting conditions are perfect. The textures are perfect. It's really blurring the line between what they shot, the set exists, and what doesn't.
Yeah.
It's really getting that good. I'm back to being a kid.
Yeah. That's, I think, why he was able to, you say, "Oh, he was gone for so long." It's because, which we covered, Lord of the Rings and Gollum and King Kong had come out. Peter Jackson, who he uses for his
Yeah, yeah,
effects, they had done motion tracking, but what was added for the first one was the little camera looks like a GoPro off
right.
on the side, tracking their face right up. And so that's what you're saying with this one. Well, they're doing that, and now they have two cameras instead of one. I've seen in stills, but also this is in water. They'd had
Yeah, yeah.
a
I
100,000 or something tank, just massive thing, and they're underwater, and people had to learn how to hold their breath, and they're doing it all.
At night, and there's fire, and I'm, like, I understand motion capture. I understand generally
Yeah,
Pandora and how we saw the Navi in the first one, but when it comes to the integration of what we're seeing, the blending of these elements, putting these things next to each other, and now I'm grasping at straws for the pieces and parts to explain it.
yeah,
It's get verging right back up on magic. I'm really it was really, I mean, it's something I haven't felt in the theater in years, is to really be looking at sequences, not just a shot or two, but sequences and minutes of plot, and I'm not sure how they achieved it.
I think that was part of the, talking a little bit about the success and then pop culture failure that people ragged on it until this one came out and sort
Yes,
of circled back
yes.
around, is like you said, it's like they
What a weird
marketed it.
time. This
Yeah,
this has been over a decade. It came out, people would have maybe went with another one, but maybe it was too early. I mean, when we were in school in 2015, it felt like it was the butt of every joke because it had no cultural impact. Like, people didn't, like, have, like, Navi tattoos and, like, Navi stickers on their, like we
yeah,
do with Star Wars or Lord of the Rings and that kind of thing. And so at that point, it almost felt like a joke. Like, how is he ever going to do another one? Because nobody's asking for it now.
yeah,
People were asking for it in maybe 2011, but at that 2015, I think people were really convinced maybe it wasn't even ever going to happen, and it became a
yeah.
big joke. And it's now he's outweighted it again, where we're kind of like ready for this thing. There's more cultural revolution. There's way more, like, impetus put on social economic problems. Like, there's so much more that's pressing, that was present in the first film, but it wasn't what people were concerned with. We weren't in the political atmosphere that we were in 2009. It was just a very different time. Now, people are
Yeah.
thinking about much different things now.
Yeah.
And
Well, it was
somehow
like,
people are ready for it again. I mean,
yeah.
it's pretty amazing.
Well, I think just to put it in the context too of like when it came out, Obama was president, TikTok didn't exist, Marvel had only come out
Yeah.
with their first Avengers, or maybe they hadn't. No, they
No, they
hadn't.
hadn't.
Right?
They
Not
had
not even.
just done Iron
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. So
They
it's
were
like they didn't even have. So we had not been inundated. So it was like it was quite a a provocative thing to say. Hey, we're going to make a planetary capitalist extraction, big budget,
I mean,
provocative film.
it changed. I think Avatar is responsible for the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we understand and talk about. Those movies changed after Avatar came out.
Yeah.
I cannot point to a movie before Avatar other than Lord of the Rings, perhaps, but that's a bit of a distance. When you compare Avatar and you compare Avengers, you can see what I'm talking about in terms of how the look of the movies have changed.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's undeniable, but all the more interesting is that they didn't follow itself up. It let all of those Marvel movies come out and really uh, refine those techniques
Hmm.
for a decade. That's what I see. When I look back now, I see Marvel was really going in all different directions until about 2008. Iron Man comes out, but they're not. That doesn't mean they have a roadmap yet. Avatar comes out the next year, and I think it shows them what these movies could look like, what these movies could look like as a banner piece, a composite stitchwork. It's like if we make a whole bunch of movies that all look like this, people will go, and they did.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. Maybe he's learned from them with the shared universe
I
and the
think so.
integrated thing and everything, because when he gave his writers an 800-page binder of all his notes and ideas to come up with the sequels and how it all fits together, he's giving each of them a different film, and he's kind of like the
Yeah.
showrunner. He's
Yeah.
kind of like the Kevin Feige saying, hey, we want 5 films total. It was 3 sequels and then it went up to
Hmm.
4. So that also was of
Yeah.
interest to me, that it's like, well, he's not just this, he is this godlike figurehead and he's difficult to work with and all the other stuff, but he's passed off the writing and the integrative aspects of, I can't do all this by myself because this
No.
is
No.
this is too big of a thing, which is definitely what Marvel succeeded at in the
Yeah.
last 10, 12 years, is pulling all the things into one universe. So that maybe was good to wait because
Yeah. Yeah.
people wouldn't have
You
been
let
as
them
receptive
run
to it.
down. Yeah, go ahead. Go run into all those problems for me and fix them for me. I showed you it was possible. I showed you the road existed. You go ahead and you clear it up for me a little bit. I think there's definitely a bit of that happened. I mean, and they didn't necessarily they've been working on this movie a long time. I read even they had been working on this particular film so long that Edie Falco thought it had come out and failed already.
Right, I saw that.
I've read that today.
She's like, I
Um,
acted in it a long time ago, and
yeah.
nothing. Yeah, yeah,
Um, so I mean, Edie Falco's perspective on this is just a taste of just how long gestating this stuff is.
uh huh,
And it's not long gestating because they don't know what what works, but it is a process. And when you're trying to make something good and you're trying to make it rich, you're trying to
yeah,
make it textured, which we've already talked about how it is. It's not just, seeing what comes to you. It's certainly inspired by some things. There
yeah, yeah. That is what interested me here, is like some of the deeper stuff that they do go into. We had talked with Pinocchio of kind of, well, it's focusing on these mono myths and these very deep human thing, like resonates. Well, how does it become about the highest
well, yeah, I
grossing
mean,
film of all time? There has to have
it's very
integral.
human. It's
Yeah.
about these aliens and stuff, but it's incredibly human. He's a human
Yeah.
storyteller. I mean, most of this movie is about a family moving to a new place and the kids trying to fit in. Like that's the gusto of this movie.
Yeah.
And it makes everybody remember the time where they were the new kid in school. That's what it felt like. But I'm on Navi and Pandora and I'm learning how to ride this like seahorse. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's all metaphor, it's all
Yeah.
plug and play.
Well, there's a couple things that relate to the bigger, grander, metaphorical, deep human stuff. The word itself, avatar, I was curious because now it's kind of
Yeah.
like Avatar: The
Oh,
Last Airbender,
yeah. Gosh,
and they're like,
they can't get away from each other, huh?
yeah,
They're right on the heels of each other in 2008 and 2009, and then now again, this is coming out, and I think the Netflix series for Airbender comes out next year or the year after.
right. So it's like
They already shot
that.
it.
Yeah, that word comes from the Sanskrit word
Mm.
of the same thing, and it's basically the embodiment of a god. So it's the human form of Vishnu, the Hindu god,
Mhm.
who would come down and use that form. That's where it comes from. The earliest story, there's a book called Avatar by this French author in 1856, and interestingly, it's a star-crossed lover thing. It's this guy who's a disabled young man,
No.
and this doctor who came back from India performs this body switch via fantastique technology
Oh,
to go into the
yes,
body of her
yes.
lover to get her. So interesting that it was used in a sort of psychedelic sci-fi
Yeah.
concept in the 1850s. Um,
Absolutely. I mean, that's much of the emotional, hit right in the first opening of the first Avatar is, "Oh, we can give you your legs back in a sense."
yeah,
You
yeah, very
that
cool
that
that
that's
that's
pretty enticing.
yeah.
I've not been through that, but, I from a storytelling level, like, "Oh, that gets me to lean in a little."
Yeah, definitely. It's also been used, the word and the terminology. We have it as like a sci-fi concept melded into real life with like, oh, your digital designation on the internet, your icon of your face on
Mhm.
Facebook.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah,
your
yeah.
avatar. But
Yeah.
it gives it this sci-fi or superhero kind of thing, which
My
yeah,
Weemoji.
exactly. Yeah. Your meta failed
So God, oh my God,
legless creature.
my
Um
hovering ghost.
yeah, exactly. Well, the idea of the avatar thing, I don't know why, but so I had to look this up. Like, the idea of them being blue, there is just something viscerally that connects with that, of
Hmm,
like a technological alternate being blue. It doesn't necessarily make sense logistically if you're trying to be true to science and nature, because if they're on a green planet and nature is green, like blue is one of the rarer things in
right,
nature for creatures, and so why
right.
make them blue? The tech reason is CGI in the 90s, as he's coming up with this, would not
Mm.
allow for it. But going back to kind of this avatar example, there are several blue-skinned gods in the Hindu religion, as well as the Shinto moon god, the Egyptian goddess Nut. So it isn't without merit mythologically,
Yeah.
but also in general, the iconography, as I was saying, with sci-fi and superheroes and telepathic body switching entities, there is this sort of blue flavor, like Dr. Manhattan. If
Yes,
you could
yes.
imagine, even also like thinking about, oh no, somebody's astrally projected, it's usually this translucent blue sort of
Yeah.
thing.
White, blue, yeah.
Yeah. Aura. And so
Ice,
I
electric.
exactly. And why that is necessarily the case, that blue is the color of tech in our idea, it almost is because it is this non-natural uh
Mm.
quality. So it just
Hmm.
feels right. But I sent you a link. I'll post it in the show notes if you could look at this.
Yes.
I love the internet because people do random studies and
Oh,
surveys.
oh my
And so
gosh.
this is an aggregate. People looked at every visual interface in every science fiction film for these years from 68 to 2011. And if you look, blue
It's
is
overwhelming.
overwhelming. Do you see the red was
91.
Terminator 2? So
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
so he's in it. But
Yeah, there's Jim, the big
yeah.
red one.
Well,
That's
he's
so
like, well,
funny.
most of the interface is red, so we're gonna we're gonna go with that. But it makes sense because it's an evil alien robot, not alien, but evil robot,
Yeah.
thing. But otherwise blue. So I just thought that that was kind of cool. That's like viscerally we
Let's see.
feel
One,
that
two,
blue
three, four, five, six. From 1968 to 2011, I see 6 years that
of slightly off.
it wasn't overwhelmingly blue.
Yeah, or even if you think about it, it's like Minority Report. It's blue.
Yeah.
It's just a
Wow.
non-natural color that we
Yeah.
associate with like
It's
sterility or
cool.
clean or yeah,
The future.
something like that. And also older avatar-like gods. So there
Yeah.
is there's a historical precedent. I just thought that was nifty.
Yeah.
That also
Very
that
cool.
he bucked the just the opposite. Doesn't even do a cool color, red
To
for
red.
91, and it's him.
I
Um,
like the tan ones, the brown. I wanna know what those were.
yeah,
Brown, orange.
the more 70s, yeah,
There's only 6
aesthetic.
of them. There's one that's like 2000. What was 2007 was like sand
Pale.
tan, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What really rocked
What was
2007 that
that?
got us there? I don't know. Maybe I don't know what. Yeah,
Yeah, I
well,
don't know.
I'll have to go look at the link and look at the
Yeah,
survey
for
and see
real.
what they were covering.
That's so funny.
Um, the last thing that we'll get into, because this has exploded with this film, the new one specifically, is the language of these
Yes.
characters and how integrated it is, and how Tolkien, it seems, with like, did they really go all out? Is this
Is
or is
this
this
real?
just
Can you
yeah? Could I actually start this? So I had to look into that because also they're talking to the animals in this one, not to spoil anything.
Yeah,
Um, it goes deeper, and presumably 3, 4, 5, it's going to go even
even deeper.
deeper. So I looked into this, and they consulted this linguist from USC, Dr. Paul Frommer. It's not a total language. I guess they have tracked now through the films and whatnot 2,600 words,
Hmm.
which technically most people would say if you know the most common 1,000 words of any language, you know 85 to 90% of the
Oh, wow.
language.
Okay.
And if you knew 10,000, if you 10x'd that, you could be a fairly literate person in that
Mhm.
language. So 2,600, you're asking where the nearest coffee shop is in
Yeah.
Navi. Like you know enough.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so he really did put a lot of time and effort into this. I'll post a link to it. He's published the grammar now, so it is a learnable language. It's not just, well, here's the
Oh,
vocab.
wow.
It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
here's how
yeah.
you construct it. Here's the the verb tenses, and here's
Oh
all
my
of the
gosh.
the
Oh
syntax
my
and the
gosh.
conjugations and all that
No.
stuff. But it's cool because just as a tidbit to tell your friends, one of the things they wanted it to be something that the actors could actually say. So
Hmm.
it can't be complete nonsense, but also different enough and not really make sense as a human language.
Mm.
So one of the things that not a lot of languages have is verb conjugation. Usually we like add it to the end or morph the word. So suffixes and prefixes
Mhm.
that go in English that go before. The verb conjugation of Navi uses what's called infixes. So the
Mm.
conjugation is put into the middle of the word to change it.
Whoa.
Uh, as opposed to being like walk, walked,
Okay.
walks, it would be an S in the middle of walk. uh,
Oh my gosh. Okay.
so this doesn't really exist in English. It exists in some other languages. The funny ones, it's like slang for English that this really makes sense. So like you add is to a word like his house or
Okay.
shiznit or something like that. Like that would be the only way that you could put in a syllable that isn't to tense it. Or like Homer Simpson used it. He uses ma and puts it in the middle of words like sophistication or edumacation. That's like the only way that you could even say that there's a corollary in English
Oh my
to
gosh,
this.
you're
So
right.
it's really
Oh,
hard
that's
language to
funny.
learn,
Yeah.
but but it's super fun that it does exist. You can go
Oh my gosh.
there's the dictionaries online. You can look up
Yeah.
stuff. There is deeper stuff, I guess is what I'm getting at, than
Yeah.
cool action set
It's
piece
not
stuff. Yeah.
just pieced together to get you through shot to shot. It's actually there's some ground to stand on.
Yeah, trying to make it alien but also human and
Gosh. I wonder how soon there will be Navi classes at your
Mhm.
local community college. Oh my gosh. No, but seriously, going forward, we're definitely getting a third one. We'll see about that fourth and fifth one. This is gonna be with us. I'm kind of shocked here because if you'd have asked me a few years ago, I'd have been like, man, that second Avatar is in trouble. That second Avatar is it's gonna be rough. Maybe it's not gonna happen. And here I am. I'm back on Pandora. I don't know. I'm really interested to see how, if people embrace it anymore. But I guess, we'll just have to go on and see with all these things. But you have to
Yeah.
let us know. Let us know. Let us know if you're a
Have
Navi head. What do they
have you
call themselves?
yeah, have you gotten a tattoo? Like you said, it's like it seems like the entire world is just holding their breath, sort of at an arm's distance. Oh, there is no fandom, is there?
I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, you know. Uh,
I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, I don't. I fandom. I mean, maybe there shouldn't even be.
and that's the thing. Maybe that's okay to just have a really good movie that people
To just
like,
be
and then
like,
they go on get
I don't
dinner
have to own
after.
it
Yeah,
as my identity.
yeah, exactly.
I don't have to go as it's actually really hard to go as a Navi as a costume. It's not worth it.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And maybe that's the genius of it is like, hey, what is this? Like, get the message of it and then actually use that in the real world. Stop putting on costumes and
yeah,
go
yeah.
save the planet. It's not the
Stop
point of the
waiting
thing.
on Iron Man to save you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah,
Really
thank you.
appreciate it. Let us know what you are reading, watching. Get in touch with us at illiteratepod@gmail.com. And we will catch you back here next week.